What up, everyone? This is Felix Reyes. Welcome to the NFL offseason. I'm so excited to get this thing started with y'all. We just got done with the 2025 NFL season, fantasy football. There was a lot of injuries this past season. There was a lot of things that probably went your way or probably went the opposite way. And that's what we're going to do this offseason. We're going to get ourselves ready for the 2026 season. And the best way to get ourselves ready is by doing a best ball. So I'm going to get one in and we're going to get right into some conversations here as we get set up. Looking forward to this. It's been I think it's been about a day or two since I've jumped in one. We're waiting for four people. So ADP has been quite interesting this offseason, especially with the rookie receivers. There's a lot of them, and some are going to have some strong takes. And by some, I'm talking about the field, right? So you got guys like Carnell Tate, you got Jordan Tyson, you got Denzel Boston. Makai Lemon is probably one of the more popular names we've been hearing often. So those are some of the guys that I'm excited to dive a little deeper. The running back class doesn't seem as strong as previous years, as we've seen, especially last year, which came from a very deep class. We saw seventh rounders such as Kyle Monangai for the Chicago Bears that really stood out. As we're talking about running backs, you guys probably saw the cover boy, and that's Omarion Hampton, product out of UNC, drafted by the Los Angeles Charger, round one, pick number 22. Omarion Hampton had quite the interesting season, right? He didn't get to play as many games as we would have liked to see him. He only played 9 games. I believe he fractured his ankle. He still ended the season as an RB16 in points per games within those 9 games played. I have a few stats here that are interesting for sure. He played 4 games with a 79% snap share, in which he averaged 17 and a half points per game. When we look at numbers like that, those are bell cow level usage. He was averaging 17.3 touches per game. He also played 4 games with 5 or more catches. PFF actually ranked them as rookies. He was in the top 3. When you look at numbers like that, I feel like Omarion Hampton right now is one of the more popular players that we're starting to hear for the 2026 season. And it's clear and evident why. Mike McDaniels is now the new offensive coordinator, former head coach for the Miami Dolphins. We've seen what Devon Achane has done out there for the Miami Dolphins. Also, a team, when you look at the Miami Dolphins, they weren't really a team that had truly that strong offensive line, but because the run scheme was so good, Mike McDaniels was able to kind of mask a lot of those deficiencies. And I think that now going with the Chargers, who had some issues this past season for sure, I think that a lot of their issues were within the interior offensive line. There are 2 tackles, one of the top 2 duels in the league, young guys in Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater were out for the majority of the year. That obviously played an impact on the quarterback, but most importantly, I think as well for the run game. We saw guys like Kamani Vidal, who had a really strong season. And towards the end of the year, we got to see them kind of play together and kind of share that backfield. But I think ultimately, Omarion Hampton is expected to be that guy. Let me pull up the screen here as we start transitioning to this. We are looking forward to what's to come here. We're about to find out what pick we have. But yeah, Omarion Hampton, a very big name this year. I think it's only right we draft him here. We'll probably grab him on the back end in the second round since we're talking so much about Omarion Hampton. But yeah, if we are expecting a healthy offensive line, which is our hopes, right? I think that a lot of big things are to come, especially with Mike McDaniels, the new addition to the Los Angeles Charger. And there's going to be a lot of boost to some of those offensive playmakers, such as Lad McConkey, Oronde Gatson, and even Quentin Justin, or Johnston. I can't even speak right now. Quentin Johnston. So a lot of exciting things with Mike McDaniels. But yeah, sure enough, again, we are going to mention a lot of Omarion Hampton this offseason, especially with the profile that he came in his rookie class. All right, let's see how this board shapes out. Let's get some music in the background, add a little bit more to this. I will putting this all together here real soon. I'm excited. There are some guests that I have planned and lined up already. We are getting some dates. And once we get that all squared away, we are going to have a ball for sure. And I'm hoping that this off season, we're able to get all the information we need. I'm going to have people break down some of these draft prospects, which is going to be something exciting to talk about. I want to talk a little bit about some of these draft strategies that I have coming forth, especially early on, right? This is usually the time that we start taking some stands. I think one of the first things that I would say early on in this offseason so far, I like to look at where these rookies are going. And I think that there's always an excitement in which they boost a lot of their ADP and kind of give some of them some pretty bad ADPs aren't the best early on. It's kind of hard to dictate too much because we haven't seen free agency, we haven't seen the NFL draft. So because we haven't seen those things yet, a lot of these players stocks are either going to go up or they're going to go down. All right, let's pull up here because we're about to pick. We are pick number 11. We've seen a few guys go off the board here. I think running back is strong this year, but I'm going to be honest, out of these running backs here, since we've already discussed that we want to do the Omarion Hampton route for the sake of the conversation that we just had, I do like Devon Achane here a ton. I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson. Okay. I think Justin Jefferson, when it's all said and done, he's going to be the guy who's going to go back into the first round. So right now you're seeing Justin Jefferson with that ADP. You're going to start seeing him. Yeah, he's got like a 13.7 ADP. You're going to see him back in the first round for sure, especially once we figure out who that quarterback is going to be. I have some suspicion. I don't think JJ McCarthy is going to be the guy. My Lord, it is so difficult to see Devon Achane here, James Cook, and Saquon Barkley. But once again, we are going to do this for the sake of the conversation here. And I am really excited for what we're going to see from Omarion Hampton. There are some questions with Devon Achane. I still think he's going to have a good year. I think he's an elite running back. Especially for fantasy football. We're going to see more or less, and obviously Silver Lightning here gets Amon-Ra and Devon Achane. What a great pick here at pick 15. But yeah, Devon Achane's going to be, now they got Jeff Hafley, who is the defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers. Their OC is Bobby Slowick. And if you remember Bobby Slowick was with the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud's rookie season, the best season we've seen from a rookie quarterback. And for some reason, that feels like so many years ago because the last couple of years we've seen CJ Stroud struggle a ton. Malik Neighbors is one of those names that I see here. I think there's obviously a lot of questions with the injury and how healthy is he going to come back? Is he going to be good for week one? I like to lean on the side that he's going to be good and kind of take the discount that we're getting now, because if we start getting positive reports that he's going to be fine and he's going to play week one, expect Malik Neighbors not to be there around that ADP of 17 and 18. He's definitely going to shoot back up. I would even call him back to where we were seeing him last year, which was the back end of the first round. Trey McBride, I've seen him shoot up to the first round at times. Trey McBride had a phenomenal season last year. Things also shifted and changed for Arizona. Arizona fired Gannon, and now they have Mike LaFleur, which is Matt LaFleur's brother, OC for the Los Angeles Rams. He is now the new head coach for the Arizona Cardinals, offensive-minded coach. Very interested to see how that looks. We're all expecting, as of now, right? The word on the street is Kyler Murray may not be the quarterback there. there's still a chance that he could be. I think Murray, as we get later into the draft, is one of the more interesting possible free agents this offseason because he's still under contract. But I think it's one of those contracts that they'll be able to cut loose and save themselves basically an opportunity, because they're going to have to pay him, all right? But they're going to get themselves a better opportunity for their new head coach to get the quarterback he may want. So very interested to see how that looks, to see how Mike LaFleur runs that offense, and if it's anywhere similar to what we've seen with Sean McVay, runs a lot of heavy tight end personnels. Mike LaFleur also comes from that, that whole Shanahan and McVay tree, right? But Mike LaFleur was with the New York Jets recently, and he was the offensive coordinator there. If I'm not mistaken, that was the year that they drafted Zach Wilson. Some try putting a lot of blame on Mike LaFleur, which to me wasn't ultimately fair due to just how bad things are usually with the Jets, unfortunately. And if you are a Jets fan, I'm really hoping for bigger things to come in the near future, but they weren't as exciting this past season. So we'll see if the shakeup that they've done, they basically fired their entire staff minus the head coach. And now they have Frank Reich, who's going to be the OC. So that should be interesting to see who will benefit the most, especially with the wide receiver core that they have there in Garrett Wilson and Adonai Mitchell. Let's see what we're going to get here. I think right now we went Justin Jefferson, Omarion Hampton. Running back, see, this is where running back just gets to a weird stage for me. We can see here that we're looking at, Kyren Williams. I don't think that's a bad move at all, actually. Let's take Kyren Williams here. Might be able to hold off since he has two running backs. Let's go with Lad McConkey here since we do have Omarion Hampton. And let's just hop on this whole Mike McDaniel love fest that everyone is having as he's the new OC. And for every right reason, right? Let's see if he doesn't take a running back here and jumps on one of these wide receivers. And sure enough, he did. And that's perfectly fine. I am still very, very fond of Garrett Wilson. It's so hard to say that, especially not knowing the quarterback that's going to be there. But we're going to take him here. I really like this position in grabbing him. I was going back and forth with the idea of Colston Loveland. Some may say that is high to get Colston Loveland. And let me tell you something, with the type of year that he just came off of, it's hard to argue that this isn't a good opportunity for him. The numbers he put up, I have some stats here that I definitely want to share with you guys. I think with all the advanced analytics and stats that he showed, I think for fantasy purposes, he's shown that he could be a top 5 tight end in fantasy football. Colston Loveland was the 10th overall pick for the Chicago Bears, played a huge role in that offense, kind of became the go-to guy, the number one option. He was also playing outside of the tight end position and playing as a receiver, as well as Ben Johnson completely got creative there. There was one stat here that I remember seeing. Yeah, he had a 35.1% first read target share, and he transitioned into a full-time role where he then averaged a 75% route share. Definitely, he's on his way to being an elite tight end. Colston Loveland is definitely a guy who is going to be right in this 4th round. I love it. I love it. I love it. We are going to lean back here at the running backs once we come back around. I definitely want to see what we have. I think that the wide receiver position is something you start seeing kind of fall off the cliff per se, and the running back position gets really weak as well because we start looking at the rookie running backs outside of Jeremiah Love, who got selected in the 2nd round. Jeremiah Love is the number 1 running back out of this class. You shouldn't hear anything different from here until September. If I'm wrong, God, I would love to look back at this and say what happened, what made him not the number one running back to come off the board once the NFL draft takes place in April. So we're seeing some more running backs here kind of come off the board. Travion Henderson, RJ Harvey, Javonte Williams, Quinshon Judkins. We saw Cam Scatterbo here as well. Let me pull up here, kind of see. I'm big on not forcing things, so we're starting to see things kind of get really light here. Not loving so far where we're starting, but that's okay. We're gonna keep on rolling here. We have Justin Jefferson, Lamb McConkey, Garrett Wilson, Omarion Hampton to start. I think Rome Odunze, if he happens to still be here, I think Rome Odunze is a really solid pick. If you remember how Rome Odunze started the season and things kind of tail off with the injury that he was dealing with, he had, I believe it was a fractured foot that he was dealing with for most of the season. I do like Jordan Tyson here, and we can talk a little bit more into this as well. Brian Thomas Jr. here. I think I might go with Brian Thomas Jr. I do like Jordan Tyson. I do want to see where Jordan Tyson ends up, but I guess the same conversation can be had with Brian Thomas Jr., right? Why Brian Thomas Jr., especially after how bad of a season he just had. And I'll get to that right now shortly. Give me 1 second here. Let's take a look here. We have Tyler Warren at tight end. We have some quarterbacks here. I think we could hold off at the quarterback position. I don't mind taking shots on guys like Ramondre Stevenson and Jaylen Warren. I will say I do like Jaylen Warren just a tad bit more than Ramondre Stevenson here because I do expect Travion Henderson to have a much better season. So I'm going to go ahead and take Jaylen Warren a little bit ahead of ADP, kind of set myself up here. We got Mike McCarthy now as the OC for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Pittsburgh Pirates. Look at me, y'all. Pittsburgh Pirates, the baseball team, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers. So we got Jaylen Warren over there. I do not expect them to re-sign Kenneth Gainwell. I know they have Caleb Johnson, rookie from last season. We might start seeing him play a little bit more, but I really just love the role that Jaylen Warren plays. He's a dual back, really good pass catching back, and also a solid running back, as he showed this year that he was able to take on a bigger share. We have, especially if they keep Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Rodgers decides to not retire and continue playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike McCarthy coming back, we could see a reunion going back to the days with the Green Bay Packers. And if we saw Aaron Rodgers this past year, and if you watched him, you would then notice how tough it was to see him play. He just looks like someone who's way past his prime age. Age is really getting to him, in my personal opinion, and I'm sure others' opinions who watched him play this past season. So run game becomes a big part of what that offense is going to have to look moving forward. All right, let's see who has come off the board. So we saw Ramondre Stevenson, Jaden Daniels, Cortland Sutton, Drake May, Joe Burrow, Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams had a much higher ADP. I think he was in the 40s when Best Ball Big Board first opened up in I think it was during the NFC Championship, AFC Championship weekend. It was crazy. He was in the early 40s. And if you've been following my show and kind of following along when I did Best Balls last year, you would then notice how high I was. I am a Bears fan, so I do have a little bit of bias that kind of comes with that. But I do see the upside with Caleb Williams as far as a fantasy player goes. You know, you can go deep into it and talk about efficiency, which of course we shall see with the pairing of Ben Johnson improve as the years go by. But for fantasy purposes, I thought he put up some really solid numbers. Another one of those guys is Trevor Lawrence. And if I'm able to land Trevor Lawrence, that would be really solid, especially after getting Brian Thomas Jr. I will definitely keep him here. Let's see. Let's take a look at what we have here. Justin Herbert is absolutely not a bad play at here. It looks like this is probably the best chance for us to go after a quarterback, given the stacks that we have. We have Omarion Hampton, Lamb McConkey, Trevor Lawrence. If you saw him at the end of the season, the whole month of December and some of the month of November, Trevor Lawrence was putting up crazy numbers. He was QB1 for most of that time. And the numbers that he was putting up were insane. He had like a 50-point 50 fantasy point outing, which was absolutely insane. So there goes Justin Herbert. Let's see if we get lucky and get Trevor Lawrence. We could see this person here probably keeping a close eye on him due to getting Parker Washington. I do love Tucker Kraft here. I think Tucker Kraft is an excellent pickup. You got Quentin Johnston here, who I'm sure the Justin Herbert individual might go after. Now, quarterback, I do think here is not a bad spot because you have Dak Prescott, you have Patrick Mahomes. You can kind of do different things with them, but I really want to stick to the strategy that we have in place. And I want to see if we can land Trevor Lawrence here if this individual doesn't take him. But another route that I've been kind of jumping on, and here we go. Let's just take Trevor Lawrence here. Let's be on the safe side. And we stack them with Brian Thomas Jr. Jacoby Myers is also out here right around this area. Unless he did get picked up. He did get picked up. That's on me right here. Pick number 79. Tony Pollard is someone that I want to prioritize a little bit more. He's in Tennessee. I thought that he started playing much better towards the tail end of the year. And when I see guys like Kyle Monangai, I think that this is too high. I do like Chuba Hubbard here. I think Hubbard is in a great spot as well. We don't know, and I'm taking more on the talent than I am the role, and that's what makes it hard right now when we're drafting so early into the season. We are trying to figure out what kind of role do these players have before free agency, before the draft. Because usually when all that happens, everything kind of settles. Look at D4VE Dave, I'm assuming here. Finally getting his running back using a 0 running back strategy. That's usually tough. But yeah, so running backs here, I think that there's guys that you want to kind of look at to take shots at. I think one of the ones that I am interested in, I do like rookie Jadarian Price. Jadarian Price was Jeremiah Love's backup, but his numbers alone showed you that if he were on any other team as a starting running back, he would have been really, really good. To some, he is RB2 in this running back class. You can look at that as an indictment to how good or bad this rookie running back class is, or just simply understand that his efficiency is really what stood out. Again, I'm really looking forward to doing some shows where we can break down more of these rookie players and kind of give a better look at their profile and how they might benefit us while we draft them this offseason. Tyler Algier is someone that I am very interested in. I do not expect him to be back with the Atlanta Falcons. It would actually shock me and surprise me. And I think obviously one of the reasons why people are taking Bijan #1 overall with a little bit more security and knowing, obviously we know how good he is, and he is clearly shown that he's worth that RB1 or just first overall pick, right? But Tyler Algier not being there will help things, but Tyler Algier I thought was still a really good running back, even though we saw him as a backup to Bijan Robinson. So Tyler Algier, wherever he ends up, if he ends up on a team like, let's say, the Dallas Cowboys, who right now we're interested to see if they bring back Javonte Williams. If they decide not to bring him back and they bring in a guy like Tyler Algier, ain't no shot that I think Tyler Algier is going to be drafted here in the 8th round. He's going to shoot up to at least the 5th round in my personal opinion. Yeah, I think he's going to shoot up really high if he's going to be given a whole backfield. One of the big things we saw, if you were a Robinson owner, how much Tyler Algier kept sniping him in those goal line touches. So if Algier gets his own backfield to himself, he's going to have all those opportunities, and we won't have to worry about what he would do to Bijan Robinson. But again, we're only a few weeks away. We're a few days away from the combine. We're also a few weeks away from free agency. All right, let's take a look here. We don't have a tight end. We have one quarterback. That's perfectly fine. I don't like forcing things here. I just want to see who are the best players available on the board. So we have, if we had Justin Herbert, right, we could have had Rondé Gadsden. who I think it's a solid pick here. I do like Xavier Worthy if he happens to be here. We did talk about running backs. We have some here that we can kind of start jumping on. I think Rico Dowdle, with the way he played at the for most of the season, I thought he was very solid. He also had some big time games where you saw him, the game where he had over 200 rushing yards. Games like that tell you very clearly that an NFL team is going to look at him and say, here's an opportunity, come on my team, and there he goes, and he gets drafted. But yeah, he's going to definitely get an opportunity somewhere. Where that may be, not too sure. We'll see. But I do think that around this area here, once again, we are in a spot here where folks aren't too sure. Here, let's see. I do like Xavier Worthy here. I'm interested to see when Mahomes gets back, if we get another year of Xavier Worthy and we actually get those big play kind of things that we saw when he was at University of Texas. Would be really cool to see. I think Juwan Jennings is interesting. If he doesn't go back to San Francisco, where does he end up? What kind of role does he get? That's going to be big. Let's see here. I think we should go running back. I think one that really stands out to me right here is Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt. We kind of saw him trail off, right? But we're kind of taking a bet on his talent. And there's a lot of advanced analytics and stuff that we saw throughout the year that kind of made us as fantasy football players kind of really dig the idea of Bill and wanting to play him a little bit more. We have the rookie Jonah Coleman here as well. I might let's go rookie. Let's throw a rookie in our books here, because obviously Jonah Coleman ends up on a team where he gets more looks in that backfield. Things can look good. I think one of the fears of Bill Crosskey-Merritt is if he somehow just ends up staying there and they bring in a guy like Breece Hall, who's a free agent, and kind of murkies things up. But my guess is if they keep him, they probably have a bigger role for him. And if they don't, I'm curious to see what team would take a shot on him and actually take on what his strengths are and kind of play to those strengths, right? And that's obviously what we want to see in fantasy. So they get a bigger role, they get bigger opportunities, and that translates to more fantasy points. All right, we have 1 quarterback, 4 running backs, 5 wide receivers. We got Trevor Lawrence. Running back, we have Omarion Hampton, Jalen Warren, Tony Pollard, Jonah Coleman. At wide receiver, we have Justin Jefferson, Ladd McConkey, Garrett Wilson, Brian Thomas Jr., and Xavier Worthy. There's definitely a trend here, and that's something I definitely really like here. And the same guys drafted out of that big wide receiver draft, which was in 2024. You got Ladd McConkey, Brian Thomas Jr., and Xavier Worthy. Usually sophomore years can be a slump for them. That happened to Ladd McConkey this past year. Was not a good year for him. Hopefully with a new OC, things look different. Brian Thomas Jr. had a really great rookie season. I mean, so good that many thought that he had the potential to be one of the top 5 wide receivers in the league. Had a really bad sophomore season. A lot people have talked about possibly it being his shoulder injury or of such, or maybe just the role he had in the offense just wasn't good, right? We saw guys like Parker Washington take a step up. They traded for guys like Jacoby Myers. And then we're obviously hearing things about Travis Hunter now, who they also drafted 2nd overall. I believe it was, I think it was 2nd overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They traded with the Cleveland Browns to get that pick. But yeah, we were hearing, is he going to be wide receiver? Is he going to be a cornerback? Right now, it's sounding like he's going to be a full-time cornerback, part-time wide receiver. Does that mean something good for Brian Thomas Jr.? Because I feel like a guy drafted that high in the 1st round in the NFL for a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars over there with Liam Cohen, you would think they have a big role for him, right? And something looks a little bit different this upcoming season. If not, there's a possibility he gets traded. And whichever team trades for him, my guess is they're going to have a massive role for him. And he's going to probably look like that alpha wide receiver. So we're taking a bet on that talent, and we're hoping that those chances are high here. I see a lot of upside potential with the wide receivers that we currently have. We can start looking at quarterbacks here too. Fernando Mendoza's out there, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Cam Ward, Malik Willis, who I think is an interesting guy. Kyler Murray just went. He was a guy I was looking at. I definitely think we should start looking at that. I do like the tight end position is something interesting here. We can look at guys like Brenton Strange. I don't think that this is a strong tight end class, and I think they really do like Brenton Strange, and they were, outside of him being injured for a portion of the season, they were trying to start to find ways to get him a little bit more involved. We're going to hold back from him right there, but I want to see who we can bring here. We have CJ Stroud. I do like a little bit of a pairing of getting Tank Dell, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later as we move forward here. Trey Benson is a really good pickup right there. We got Kenneth Gainwell, Tyron Tracy, J.K. Dobbins, James Conner. So there's still a lot of shots you're taking here, and I think we can kind of hold off on this right here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go quarterback, right? That's one of the positions we were just talking about, CJ Stroud. Let's take, I think Malik Willis should be drafted a lot higher than where he is. And if he ends up going to the Miami Dolphins, I think that he can have a standalone value. Malik Willis is getting tied a lot over there due to the new GM, head coach, everybody basically being from the Green Bay Packers. So there's a lot of connecting of the dots trading there. So that should be interesting. Let's take a look. We can take a shot, man. James Conner is just one of those guys that, is he good? Is it like in terms of health? Are we going to ever get, let's get a veteran. We have some young guys here. James Conner, if he ends up still playing, obviously, for a team, I think that he still gets a decent enough role to take a shot at him. I was going back and forth with Tyron Tracy, but I do believe that Cam Scatterbo being back, he's just going to take on an even bigger role. I do like what Tyron Tracy brings as a pass catching back as well. As he is a dual threat running back. I think that for PPR purposes, he would have been the guy I leaned a little bit more, and guys like Kenneth Gainwell, even though we don't know what team exactly he'll be on this offseason. But yeah, we went quarterback here, Malik Willis. We can kind of go in with that thought process. Does he end up with the Cleveland Browns? They got a lot of money tied up right now. What teams are out there? There's a lot of options. Does he go to Arizona? You know, I mean, we really don't know if Kyler Murray's gone. Do they find a way to bring him in? You know, so these are things that we get to do this offseason. The Jets could be an option as well. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of places that he can end up. Do the Steelers even go after him? And, you know, a lot of these are going to be based off, right, where their salary caps are at. But I also think that, as we've seen in these NFL seasons, things constantly change, and there's a revolving thought and theory when it comes to the salary cap, because they're always manipulated, they're always changing, and teams somehow magically get so much more free space. Travis Hunter was someone that I did consider here, and I ended up going with James Conner. Travis Hunter would have probably been the better play. Because even though we did talk about that he's a part-time starter, but what if he's not? And what if they do get rid of Brian Thomas Jr.? When you're kind of building, I think that those ideas are really solid and strong to kind of go with. As you see, we have no tight ends right now. No need to force it. I think that there's still a lot of good tight ends here. This just seems like the type of roster that we're building might be better suited for a 3 to 4 tight end room. Hopefully just a 3 tight end room would probably do. Guys like Travis Kelce being out there, I still think is really interesting. Mark Andrews still being out there right around this bucket is still pretty good. Let me pull up the board. I've done a pretty bad job in getting the board up for you guys. We just saw CJ Stroud leave here. We could still throw a wide receiver. I think we have a really good wide receiver room right now as we're talking. Running back room we can still add a little more influx. Look at this. We're getting Tyreek Hill round 13. See, some people are scared of drafting Tyreek Hill. I'm not so much. I think if Tyreek Hill still has an opportunity to play, which we're expecting right now that he is going to be playing. He just got released from the Miami Dolphins. So, you know, obviously a big part of it is going to be what team he decides to play for as now a free agent. I'm interested. Does he go back to the Chiefs? Does he try to run one again back with them? Or does he end up with another team? I mean, I'm really been trying to figure out, I'm like, where would Tyreek Hill end up? There's been stories, him going back to I guess he's from Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. I gotta look deeper into that. But there's like a video that went around on Twitter about him saying that he would love to finish his career for the Minnesota Vikings. So that would be interesting, seeing him and Justin Jefferson playing alongside each other. And like we mentioned, what quarterback ends up going there? Is it Mac Jones? Speaking of quarterback, I think Daniel Jones being here is really interesting. Let's see. Let's go after Mark Andrews. We are very light at the tight end position because we have none. So when I say light, we have none. Travis Kelce is going to be the guy I'm going to go with right here, even though I know that the running back position is still something we can kind of look into. I think Daniel Jones, like I mentioned, is not a bad play right here. I expect him to be back healthy. But Travis Kelce, the looks of it doesn't seem like he's going to retire. There was a time where we thought that. It seemed like there was a lot of excitement because Eric Bieniemy is now back with the Kansas City Chiefs as the OC. Kelce kind of shared some of that love on his podcast with his brother. So rumor has it right now, it feels that Travis Kelce is coming back. And until we hear that confirmed, I expect his ADP to skyrocket for sure. So if he's at round 14, 15 right now, he's probably going to get damn near like 10 or 11 probably. Tight end wise, he is, what is he right now? He is, he's going after Mark Andrews. And like I said, these are two guys that I think are really low down there. But yeah, I can see him going much higher than that. Absolutely. Who are the guys like Sadiq, the rookie, Brenton Strange, Hunter Henry, Juwan Johnson? Yeah, absolutely. I think he'll be right around this bucket. Jake Ferguson, Dallas Goedert. That's where you're going to see him, in my opinion. So round 12, round 11, right around there. There's still a lot of talks about George Kittle. How healthy is he? But yeah, if we also get word that Patrick Mahomes is going to play week 1, right? That's going to change things as well, as we know him to be one of Patrick Mahomes' favorite targets. And let's be honest, the Andy Reid offense is really predicated on the tight end position as well. And he's going to be a tight end that, even at his age right now, is still a big part of how that offense flows. He's a big, big part of that offense. Didn't have the strongest year, but at round 14, he can definitely pay off this price pretty easily. So I like grabbing him here. I like grabbing Mark Andrews here, especially going into round 13 and having 0 tight ends. I don't think this is a bad position to be in. I think right now what we're looking at to probably improve, like I said, the wide receiver position is pretty good. I like to kind of just throw some guys there. This is big board, by the way, that we're doing pre-draft best ball. So a lot of the guys that we're getting right now, obviously you're taking shots at, but the big thing with the big board is that it's 20 rounds versus 18 rounds that you usually get when Best Ball Mania starts up. I believe it's like a week or two after the NFL draft. Right now, we are going to take a look at some guys here. Let's see. We have, I do like the Calvin Ridleys, the Adonai Mitchells of the world right around here. I also think JJ McCarthy is someone we can still talk about, even though my eyes are set elsewhere in terms of who that who that quarterback could be for that team. Michael Penix is not a bad pick here. Dylan Sampson. We got Tank Bigsby. Who else do we have here at running back? I don't mind adding a guy like Caleb Johnson and kind of just taking shots here, because if that's the entire backfield and you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers, I expect them to be very dependent on the run game. Joe Mixon scares me, y'all. I don't know what's going on with that injury, and to not see him play last year, there's a lot of rumors and a lot of things that there's just so much that went behind that whole thing. So I don't know, until we get a little more information, you see kind of things die out here. So yeah, let's get Caleb Johnson here. I think this is going to be like a 7 running back room. I like Dylan Sampson, but I think Caleb Johnson obviously can take on a bigger role. Dylan Sampson, yeah, let's just take Caleb Johnson here real quick. Wow, we have him. I expect him to have a better year. Nicholas Singleton would have been someone I've already picked at this point. We need to hear a little bit more about how bad this is, because I believe he broke his foot in the Senior Bowl, which is very unfortunate, right? Because he's so talented. Nicholas Singleton is so good. Him and Katron Allen were in that backfield for Penn State. So I always thought really high of him. All right, let's see here what we have. We have Michael Penix, who's a starting quarterback here. We do have Dylan Sampson. We have JJ. What round is this? 16. I guess this isn't a bad time to just take a shot at JJ, because we do have Justin Jefferson. What if they do go with him? What if they don't go after this veteran quarterback? I still think they get a veteran quarterback to add to that quarterback room for sure. But would it be a veteran quarterback that starts right away, right? Is it a Kyler Murray that I expect him to start right away? Or is it a Tua who might just end up being there more for competition and maybe lose out, and JJ McCarthy gets pushed a little bit more? So we'll see. But one thing I do know about JJ McCarthy is fantasy upside is definitely there. When he's playing at a high level, he shows that. And I think towards the end of the year, he started giving you a little bit more, and he started flashing some of that outside of the inconsistency we saw for the majority of the year. All right, we are currently in round 16. This is how things are starting to shape up. As we continue doing more videos, things are going to sound a little more clean in terms of thoughts and everything. But I do love the idea of doing this first draft with you guys and kind of recording and just kind of recording my reactions as we're drafting, as things are moving along, because so much is going to change in the next couple of weeks. The way this board looks right now, it's going to flip for sure. As far as how much we're going to see this board flip, we'll see soon. But yes, Combine is going to help get these rookies shoot up in terms of stock, and some are going to shoot down based on how they run a 40. All those things do play a big part. You'd be surprised as far as stocks goes, right? When the NFL draft combine comes up here in about a week or so. And then obviously fantasy free agency, which we're about a few weeks away. That would be next month. And then we'll also see how teams address certain needs that they have at the position. And that will kind of dictate some of these roles for these players. All right, y'all. 3 quarterbacks, 6 running backs. I think we kind of position ourselves in a really nice spot here. I think wide receiver, like all over the place, right? We did take JJ McCarthy. We took Zachary. I think Gunnar Helm is interesting. I do think Marvin Mims, after what we've seen him do, always been a talented wide receiver. And for some reason, we saw Sean Payton not really utilize him early on, and now took on a much bigger role. Just taking a look here, I do like Malachi Fields, do like some of these guys, but let's take a shot in taking someone like Marvin Mims Jr., who we did see really play a bigger role as the season went forward, and then we got to see him a little bit more in the playoffs. Tight end position is interesting here. I did mention here, let's see who we could get at running back as well. I think, is Hemby still there? I do like Hemby a lot. We could probably get him here in the 18th round. I don't think he's going to last any further than that. I like Hemby. Ray Davis is interesting here. We don't know much. I do think Mike Washington Jr. is also really interesting as a rookie. We'll see what Adam Randall looks like as well with the combine. I think he's going to be more of a PPR guy because of his abilities. But yeah, I like Hemby a ton. I definitely want to take more shots on Hemby and kind of get more exposure to him during the pre-draft process here. So we currently have 7 running backs. I think for sure now what I like doing in these is getting more wide receivers. So we got 3 quarterbacks, 7 running backs, 6 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. I think from here on out, I am going to be looking at the wide receiver position based on my build. I had to go a little heavier on the running back side because I didn't feel too strong with this. I don't think this running back room is of high strength. It's just kind of all over the place. And I think that a lot of it was just when we were on the board, how much things shifted as I was looking for certain things. But I think that that's one big takeaway that I've gotten this offseason is the running back room looks so different this year for fantasy football. I think people are looking at what happened last year, right? Because prior to that, there was a lot of the zero running back strategy, the hero running back strategy, which is when you get the one elite running back to start off and then kind of just start getting all these wide receivers. And I think that the wide receiver shift happened a lot due to that 2024 NFL draft class where we had that was the Malik Neighbors class, the Roma Dunze, the Marvin Harrison Jr., the Brian Thomas. There were so many wide receivers that came out of that class, and it was easier to draft them as you went by. And then we didn't see a lot of good running backs because we felt that most of the running backs that were on teams, most of them have become more running back by committee. I've been doing fantasy football since 2006, and I remember the good old days when running backs were all heavy bell cow usages. You would see just one running back really taking on the majority of a backfield. And it was so much easier to kind of stack your team with those main running backs and then kind of build around the rest. But things have shifted a lot. Most teams kind of do the running back by committee. And very rare do you find those teams that have like the Niners where they play Christian McCaffrey at a high usage and such. We even saw it with the Rams this past year when they started adding on a little bit more Blake Corum towards the end of the year. Let's see here. So we got wide receivers. Been talking a little bit here. I want to take a look at some options. Hollywood Brown is going to be a free agent. Some are saying he might end up back in Baltimore. No Greg Roman, who he had a lot of his issues with, but going back with his boy Lamar Jackson. I do like Jalen Naylor here just because of what we have here with JJ McCarthy and that combo. We have Wicks, who I like here. You have Malik Washington. Maybe we could do Malik Washington, right? I don't think Malik Washington is going nowhere, and he's one of the younger guys. They might have a bigger role for him. We'll see what Bobby Slowick does with him, right? And we do have Malik Willis, so let's kind of take a shot at him here. Malachi Fields is someone I'm really interested in as well. Notre Dame product, definitely looked really good in the Senior Bowl. Kind of his stock kind of shot up there. But for sure, having CJ Carr, their quarterback over there, we got to see a little more Malachi Fields this season. Chris Bell is interesting, dealt with some injury. Jeremy Bernard, also a really talented player. Ted Hurst is another one I really like. But yeah, let's get Jalen Naylor, because I think Jalen Naylor is a really solid wide receiver 3. And that sounds funny to say, but I do like building stacks here. I kind of left my tight end room a little tough here, y'all. I could have probably gone 3rd tight end. But if these two guys have a significant enough role, I think that if there's one position that you can risk in best ball, in my opinion, a 0, it's usually the tight end position. But I think these two guys have had previous roles, and I'm hoping Isaiah Likely is now gone. So I don't expect the Baltimore Ravens to re-sign him. He's going to be a free agent. He probably goes back with his guy in Todd Monken and ends up on the Cleveland Browns, who Tom Monken is now the head coach for. So if Mark Andrews gets that back, that whole tight end room to himself now in terms of just route opportunities that he had in the past, we already know the connection and relationship he already had with Lamar Jackson. I expect that to look a lot better. So once again, I'm going to bet on these guys, especially these veterans who've had healthy roles and have PPR, right? That's Underdog Fantasy. So for the big board, we are definitely leaning on touchdowns. And I think that those are two guys that we can trust for that. Mr. Irrelevant for this draft ended up being Hurst, really solid rookie, who we will talk a little bit more about as we continue doing more drafts this off season. Thank you guys so much for hopping on. Appreciate you guys showing some love. Make sure to follow my Instagram page. I have it right here on the bottom on the little banner down below. TikTok page. I definitely want to do some more content this off season. Going to be putting some more out there. And like I said, I'm really excited. I have reached out to a few guests, did hear back from a few of them that will be hopping on the show, and really good people who are going to help get us prepared for the 2026 season and also this 2026 NFL draft. Get some deeper look on some of these prospect profiles as we move forward. Thank you guys. Have a good one. Peace.